Welcome to another episode of National Divorce Talk Raw. This is going to be a relatively quick episode. We're going to talk about how a new poll came out showing that Americans believe there is a 51% chance of an upcoming civil war. That was part of a larger poll that the media covered, but they actually didn't cover that particular point. We're going to show you what they did say, what they didn't say, and we're going to make sure that you're aware of the perpetual slide towards disunion that America seems to be taking a step towards every moment, regardless of whatever we do here at Calexit. But real quick, let's take a look at this and we'll get right to it. Well, a new poll came out recently showing that there were 47.8% of American adults who said they don't feel that a civil war is coming. But then they asked people, do you strongly feel a civil war is coming? Do you somewhat feel it's coming? Or do you just a little bit feel it's coming? And when you add up all the people who said they had some feeling or strong feelings that a civil war was coming, it's 51%. Over half of America said that they believe a upcoming civil war is likely. We'll show you the poll. Now, the original source for this is this survey. It comes from the University of California, Davis, and they were talking about health. And what they were looking at was the survey was talking about the propensity towards violence, and it's in the health department because they're trying to work on reducing gun violence. But what they found when they were trying to do a survey on gun violence and the trends towards violence in general was that there was a uptick in a trend towards political violence. New report published UC Davis Violence Prevention Research Program. We expected the findings to be concerning, but these exceed our worst expectations, is what the author of the study said. That's going to be key. 51% agree that in the next several years, there will be a civil war in the United States. So there we go. That's that. Now, if you want to look at the actual information, here's the report. This is the actual report that came out. I will show you the question. Download the PDF. Same thing. Here's the report. Scroll all the way down. And I'm going to show you that they literally asked this. Yes, I know that you believe us, but we have to provide the evidence so that people can't refute what we say. Here we go. Table 2. Right, there you go. Page 27. In the next few years, there will be a civil war in the United States. There it is. There's the terminology, 47.8. And then when you add up all of the agrees, it's 51%, leaving only 2.1% who were not sure. So there's the question. It's on page 27 of this survey, which came from this report, which came from the University of California, Davis. They're not alone. International news, the English people picked up on this. Half of Americans expect a second civil war within years. There you go. So that was Daily Mail covering that. We also 51%, as we talked about, when you add all those 36.4, 8.4, and 5.3%, all the people who were open to this idea equals 51%. There it is. And they're not the only ones to raise the alarm bell. Here is our favorite liberal, here's our favorite American liberal, Crystal. And the show's called Crystal Ball. Half of Americans say civil war is imminent. Let's take a listen.
Well, guys, the Senate is working on legislation to prevent a future presidential election from being stolen. Democrats are wrapping up hearings into the last blundering attempt to steal a presidential election, and candidates fully bought into the deepest stop the steal conspiracies are romping in Republican primaries across the country. But it's not just Democrats who see their political opponents as existential threats. Republican candidates are increasingly framing themselves as combatants in a war which is either at the doorstep or already here. The Washington Post is reporting that Republican candidates are using the language of civil war in their ads and campaign messaging. You might recall Eric Greitens costumed in tactical gear with a giant gun, busting into a house raid style hunting for Republicans who are insufficiently beholden to the president. There's the Republican nominee for Attorney General in Maryland outright declaring that the country is, quote, at war, and the enemy has co-opted members of agencies and agents of our government. Candidates from Sarah Palin to J.D. Vance are declaring that Biden isn't just incompetent and bad at his job, but that his policies are the result of a sort of evil genius, intentionally designed to make Americans suffer with high gas prices and fentanyl deaths. As the Post writes, quote, the argument is not just that Democrats disagree with conservatives, but that they despise them and hurt them on purpose. New polling and research shows that voters across the political spectrum might be kind of open to this existential rhetoric coming from political candidates and from elites. A growing number of Americans believe that the American project is coming apart completely and may fracture in the coming years. A recent YouGov poll found 49% of Americans say they believe America will cease to be a democracy in the near future. Only 25% thought that democracy would actually persist. Another 25% said that they were not sure. That means about 3/4 of the country at least has some real doubts about the future of our national experiment with democracy. This is across the partisan spectrum, by the way. Those with the bleakest views consumed the most partisan media. So of all the demographics...
Okay, now I want you to see this. There it is. Now she's going to talk about the survey that we just discussed.
68% perceive a serious threat to our democracy. And as this existential sense of doom and conflict rises, willingness to resort to violence and to back strongman leaders also seems to have increased. 12% said they were willing to personally commit political violence. Perhaps most troubling of all, 40% said, quote, having a strong leader for America is more important than having a democracy. So you take all these numbers together, it's a pretty ugly portrait of how Americans are thinking and how they are feeling. About half the country thinks we are heading towards war and the end of democracy. Increasing numbers are actually okay with this violent authoritarian.
There you have it. New poll came out. 50.1% of Americans across the political divide, that means if you add regular Americans, including some Republicans and Democrats, think that a civil war is likely. Only the English newspaper and Breaking Points picked up on that. All of the other news covered some other points that poll talked about. So it seems, again, the system doesn't want you to get this conclusion, even though it's there. Let's take a look at the comments real quick. And that's why we cover this news, Bob, is that we don't want a civil war. And we and some of the red states that we work with are pushing the concept of national divorce as an alternative to civil war. Now, you have MSNBC and CNN and a couple legacy media sites on the left saying, well, when they say national divorce, they mean civil war. That's a lie. That's not true. National divorce is the alternative to civil war. That's what we're pushing here. Yeah, civil war would be stupid. Totally agree with you, Daniel. Civil war is not going to be helpful at all to anybody. And we're not for it. We're Californians. We're for peace and peaceful independence. Wanted to make sure that you're updated. We have another show coming for you in just a few minutes, and we'll see you soon.